Welcome back to Father's Reach Out. Good to see everybody here. As you recall from prior episodes, I have been divorced for about, I don't know, 10 years now. My ex wife has passed away since then, and I've lost my daughter to this system that we all bought into. We have no choice of our own. It's the divorce industrial complex, basically. Um, so I'm starting today off with a statement on my position on politics, the way the country is going. It affects us all. I think it's important. Excuse me. I am a left leaning person. Some would say I'm an extreme lefty, but there's nothing extreme about thinking that people should have free health care. The rest of the world has it, so why not us? There's nothing extreme about believing that everyone should be able to afford food and housing. Again, the rest of the world has it, so why shouldn't we? The same goes for education. I think it's ridiculous to strap down people with a lifetime of debt just to get an education. Does that make me radical? Well, if so, then that's the case. Yes, I guess I am a radical. I believe crooks dressed as politicians run the country and should be held accountable for what they've done. They are supposed to be the examples we look up to, but instead they they position themselves for self-enrichment and line up for a race to the bottom, all while toting their free health care and cash-laden pockets. I think politics is totally captured. I believe we cannot vote our way out of this or these problems. So I don't vote, and I frankly haven't voted for years. Some people think that not voting means I don't have the right to complain about the situation, but here it is just the same. I'm just as affected by these conditions whether I vote or not. I don't watch Fox News because I believe it's full of shit. I'm a boomer, and I grow tired of seeing boomers get blamed for the state of affairs today while getting taken for suckers for believing the garbage that news organizations like Fox spews. For that matter, I don't watch CNBC or MSNBC either. I go to mainstream media. I don't go to mainstream media at all. I go to the internet. And, I find smaller channels that I think I can get better news from. If I could change the way things are, I would, but I can't, so I deal with it like everybody else. I believe Democrats and Republicans are two sides of the same coin. I don't think a third party would change anything because it would be just as corrupt as the first two, or certainly it wouldn't take long for it to become as corrupt as the first two. I'm old enough to remember how things used to be. I believe it should be that way today. The world, I believe, was a better place then. Okay, let's get into it. I'm here to get my story out. I feel I was wronged enough to do that. I want to fight back. Father's Reach Out is hopefully my way of doing that. If enough people out there who either have been through a similar situation or who are empathetic enough to join the fight see this, then my goal will have been fulfilled. My goal is to try to bring change to a corrupt political system. A lot of people will say, good luck with that. I'm going to take my shot at it just like everybody else. I have to start somewhere. All right, corrupt system, so corrupt that it's rotten to the core. It involves the legislation, the courts, the offices of the attorneys generals, and the lawyers, who are the biggest winners of all while bankrupting, divorcing parents, especially fathers. I myself have paid in for 20 years of child support. I'm sorry, 18 years of child support I paid for. I now have an arrears, which I will cover in other episodes or later on in this one. But it's garnished. Garnishing means they take the wage from your pocketbook before you can get there, before it can get to your pocketbook. It it means that they take it out of your paycheck before it gets to you. Um, if you're working minimum wage jobs, if you're working a $10 or a $20 wage job and a 50% garnish, that becomes $5 an hour, or 25,000 becomes 1250, so on and so forth. So you've had to forego. I've had to forego quite a few things over the years. Um, One of them is getting new teeth, no free health care. This was a botch job done by a dentist years ago that I thought was going to do the correct thing for me, but obviously didn't. I could have sued him, but I didn't. It takes lawyers. It takes lawyers and money to go to court. It takes lawyers and money to go to court every time. Every time you want to make a change to anything or an addendum to any kind of a divorce. Anyway, there is a weight on my shoulders that I need to get rid of. Like I say, I spent 20 years of indentured servitude to this system, and I do call it the divorce industrial complex. I call it because just like its cousin, the military industrial complex, it has tentacles that run deep and long and right into the pocketbooks of those who fall into face of it. I lost my daughter to this system and wholeheartedly believe she would be with me today if it were not for their interference. I haven't spoken to my daughter in 4 years now. She sent me a Dear Mike letter about 4 years ago, and that was the last time I've spoken to her. It was just after her 17th birthday. I believe she was too young to make a decision like this on her own, so her mother was definitely part of corrupting her about me slowly over the years to the point where she finally just said, I don't want to see this guy anymore. Even though I did pay in $100,000 in child support over the years and still owe in arrears, like I say, the arrears is not genuine. It was something they came up with through creative bookkeeping, but it's there just the same. All right, I'm going to cover the history of child support just a little bit. The American child support system evolved from a localized welfare cost recovery tool. So what it was if the states paid out child support to somebody, they would charge the father, and that would be a reimbursement for the government for that payout. Driven by family dynamics and rising divorce rates, the program modernized to ensure consistent financial support for children, which it did not do, and it certainly does guarantee the bankruptcy of the fathers, while integrating automatic tracking and wage withholding. That's garnishment. In the late 19th century, as child labor restrictions increased, forgive me, I do have trouble pronouncing certain words because of my teeth. In the late 19th century, as child labor restrictions increased and the definition of childhood shifted from being a period of labor to a period of education and dependency, the need for consistent support became paramount. Early enforcement relied on criminalization for the failure to pay. Non-support laws were passed at the state level to hold absent fathers criminally liable, and you would literally get thrown in jail. I technically still could. The welfare era was after World War II. This is the welfare era that we're more familiar with. It became a program known as the AFDC, the Aid to Families with Dependent Children, which was the precursor to the modern TANF program, which is what we know about today, which is what we all fall under today. The AFDC program led to ballooning welfare rolls. This was what was known as traditional welfare, and the stigma that came with it created outrage in the general public. Politicians would bellow about welfare queens eating lobster on the dole, like it's really anybody's business what they buy. Actually, lobster is a more healthy dish than the cheap fillers and starches they prefer that you eat. So it's nobody's business what you get when you're on food stamps or welfare. The first federal legislation regarding child support was passed in 1950, requiring state agencies to notify law enforcement when children receiving AFDC benefits were deserted. In 1965 and 1967, Congress expanded these measures by allowing states to use Social Security and tax records to track down absent parents. Still, these collections generally reimbursed the government for welfare payouts rather than going to the children themselves. In other words, cost recovery. The government, not the child. Who's the real welfare queen? Excuse me. In response to the soaring divorce rates, it modernized in 1975 with Gerald Ford signing the Title 4D of the Social Security Act. Again, that was in 1975. Establishing the Child Support Enforcement Program, which is still there today, and it's the same program that they go after you with if you owe anything. This required states to establish child support agencies. Each state has its own. In my case, it's going to be the Attorney General of Texas. And these agencies help locate absent parents and enforce support orders to receive federal funding. The AFDC is the original child support program, aid to families with dependent children. From 1935 to 1996 is when it changed then. Bill Clinton changed all that. The AFDC was the primary vehicle for economic support for families with dependent children. The program collected money from non-custodial parents whose children relied on AFDC benefits. But that money did not go to children. It was a reimbursement system, instead used to reimburse the government for AFDC benefits. That kind of sounds like a scam to me. In 1988, case automation required states to automate case management and to simplify ways to establish paternity if required. In 1993, medical support was required by states to include medical support for children. This was also true for me. I too I was required to buy insurance and to make sure that she was medically covered, even though my wife and daughter were on Medicaid. So this doubling up of insurance coverage was part of how they bankrupt you. In 1996, new hiring reporting came into law, requiring companies to inform the government of all new hires, allowing the divorce industrial complex to locate parents who were paying support. This is where garnishment started, automatically taking involuntary money directly from your paycheck, leaving you with no choice but to accept wage garnishment. This is where parents who paid child support became indentured servants to the state. And it was in 2004 where I started. So only a handful of years after it became mandatory in law is when I started paying into it. I actually started in 2006. My daughter was born in 2004. In my case, the garnishment was 50% of my wage, leaving me no choice but to have to flounder around for cheap rent and at times made me homeless at more than one occasion. My best working years were spent paying child support, and at 50%, my best working years were totally wasted. I have absolutely no savings. As you can see, I can't even really see a dentist because there is no such thing as real dental medical coverage. They claim there is, but it's just cleaning your teeth is all it is. If you need a filling, it might do that too. Moving on, the welfare era as we know it was started after World War II. Again, I had said that, excuse me. I'm getting my notes mixed up here. My best working years were spent paying this cat and mouse game. Anyway, that's the brief history of how it brings us to today, and this is where we're at. I still am paying in arrears. I pay in only about $100 a month right now. That arrears amount was acquired from the difference. How do I explain this? The difference when I went to court, I was making a little bit more money on a temporary summer job. So I was paying in originally $130 a month. Excuse me. And then after I got this temporary summer job, they took me back to court, which they can do. They track your wage earnings, and they tripled it. They made it, what was it then? It became $540 a month, plus insurance, which is not cheap. So they took the difference between the 2 years that I was paying the $130 and then the $550 plus insurance, and went back the 2 years and prorated it back. And they came up with an instant $10,000 arrears. And I checked that is legal, even though it's completely immoral and really shouldn't be legal. Anyway, that's where I'm at. So to my daughter, I haven't spoken to her in 14 years. She's welcome, and I'm hoping that someday she'll see these recordings and maybe try to reach out to me. I've kept all my phone numbers and emails the same in case that ever happened. I'm thinking of starting a GoFundMe account for my teeth because you can see I have trouble speaking. Anyway, that's really all I have to say today. I'm running out of time. Thank you for stopping by the Father's Reach Out, and please look for the next episode in the next couple weeks. Thanks for stopping by.